China in the modern day can no longer be considered communist. It is instead more accurate to call it a classical fascist state. Now that may seem like a ridiculous statement to make, however, China does share a lot of similarities with what we would define as classical fascism. But in order to make that claim, I must first establish what is fascism, or more specifically, classical fascism, also known as Italian fascism. It is different from what people would normally think of when we speak of fascism, which is more specifically classified as Nazism or whatever you do not like. Let me discuss how fascist Italy economic system works. Italy did have privatized industry, however, that existed only at the consent and with direct oversight from the state. If this industry did anything that the state did not like, the people in charge would be removed and replaced with people who were more accommodating. Classical fascism is nationalistic. It is a very state-focused ideology prioritizing itself over the individual. Classical fascism, on the individual level, is fairly socially conservative. Classical fascism differs from Nazism in this key area. While Nazism promotes racial superiority, classical fascism promotes a cultural superiority. Classical fascism sees itself as the replacement to religion and has negative views to others. Now that we have established a good baseline for what classical fascism is, we can compare it to China to see how the two stack up. Now that we have established a good baseline for what classical fascism is, we can compare it to China to see how the two stack up. First, China's persecution of non-Han. China is made up almost entirely of a single ethnic group, which is the Han. They make up approximately 90% of China's population. We somewhat recently saw their favoritism towards the Han with the genocide of the Uyghurs. As for China's economic system, I don't think many people will disagree that is, as I described, with Italy's economic system, though perhaps China leans a bit more towards a command economy. China is socially extremely conservative, and many things that we would consider basic rights here, they do not have. And while they do not expressly ban religion, they place heavy restriction on it and publicly discourage it through state media. They also oversee it in the same way that they oversee their private markets. And while China is not nationalistic in the same way that we would normally think of nationalism, they do have a tendency to prioritize adherence to the state and the party